We're live here on TikTok also. Hello, we're live. Sweet. This is the first time being live on YouTube in literally a couple of years. I don't know. It's been a while. Hello, welcome. Yeah, we're just getting started. For those who don't know, who are new to my channel, I am a published neuroscientist. Been in the field for a little over a decade. I have my master's in psychology. All my research work is in systems neuroscience. I've studied mice and I've studied people, and I'm here to answer questions. And my favorite thing to do is teach people about the brain for free. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. This is the place to do it, and this is the time to do it. If I don't know the answer, then I'll happily look it up and we'll work through it together. And if not, if it's going to be like real complicated, I'll write it down and I'll make videos about it later for sure. So yeah. Okay. I think I should probably invite some people.
I'll be right there.
Okay. You're invited. Hello. We're just getting started. I'm live here and I'm live elsewhere over on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Do you got your headphones in? Huh?
Nope.
Okay.
I am not on either of your lives yet. I will be very soon.
Okay. Hello, welcome. Yeah, we're just talking about the brain. What about the brain? There's lots to the brain. I've got a brain right here. Look at this beautiful, gooey, lovely ball of electric fat that we have sitting inside our skull. It's wonderful. Pilots our bone mech suit and has us doing all sorts of fun things.
Look on the mirror light. Give you a little bit better light.
Oh, good idea.
You can also, if you want to turn on the bars along the side of it, do a color.
That's fine. I think this is good. Hello, welcome. We're just getting started. Got my brain here. My little brain buddy. He's ready to help me teach all the people of TikTok and YouTube. Yeah, what should we talk about? I know a lot of people have been very interested in memory lately. We could talk about that. A lot of people were interested in talking about like memory encoding during PTSD. A lot of people were interested in talking about craniosacral therapist and longevity specialist. Nice. Hello. Hi, EB, CMT, and CST. It's nice to meet you. How are you? Craniosacral therapist. What do you do exactly? Is that like yeah, what do you do? What is your job? Yeah, electric fat. That's what it is mostly. It's a lot of other things too. Brain massage. Ew, that's gross. You just kind of get in there, huh? Really like get in there. Yep, a lot of people were. Oh, what's going on here? Get out of here. A lot of people were really interested in trauma encoding. Create more fluid for the brain. Oh, good. You're giving them that good cerebrospinal fluid bath. Nice. Yeah, cerebrospinal fluid is super important. Yeah. Okay. So like one of the things I do kind of on the side for fun is I tutor people, and I usually tutor college students. I guess I could be talking to my microphone. That'd probably be helpful. Sorry about that. One thing I do for fun is I tutor college students, and I'll tutor them in neuroscience courses, and I also tutor them in psychology courses and biology courses. And something that we've been talking about a lot lately, I guess people have a lot of like cognitive neuroscience courses that are covering this topic, is Alzheimer's. And one of the things that we discussed was how one of the earlier predictors of Alzheimer's, like before symptoms show up, before anything shows up, actually just about everything shows up before symptoms. Once symptoms show up, it's too late usually. But are CSF biomarkers, right? You can look at the cerebrospinal fluid and you can see either a decrease in the amyloid beta showing up in the cerebrospinal fluid. It's coming up as a decrease because it's accumulating in the brain and it's really sticky, so it's getting stuck. So it's not getting flushed out properly. For those who don't know, your cerebrospinal fluid actually flows through the brain through what are called ventricles. There's like a ventricular system, and it serves three purposes. One of the main ones is that it holds your brain up because your brain is very soft. It's about the consistency of room temperature butter. So even the act of just holding a brain would damage it, right? So, we have this cerebrospinal bath to help hold this electric ball of fat suspended because it's very buoyant. So that's a good thing. Another thing is obviously, the cerebrospinal fluid is kind of what the brain uses to eat. It brings in a lot of nutrients. But then another very important feature of the CSF is that it washes your cellular excretions out, all your toxins, so that they don't build up. And unfortunately, in Alzheimer's, beta amyloids build up quite a bit. Sugar is the root cause of all disease. I don't believe that. That's not true. It definitely can be inflammatory, especially if you're consuming a lot of it, especially if you're living like a really sedentary life. But I don't think that sugar causes all that many diseases. I think like poor lifestyle choices cause a lot of diseases. And then I think there are a lot of genetic factors that weigh into diseases. I don't think just eating sugar will give you disease. But let's see. So yeah, we got our cerebrospinal fluid. Okay. So in Alzheimer's, we'll notice that amyloid beta is not showing up, and that's because it's getting real sticky. It's like getting all stuck in your brain. You can actually use PET scans to use like a little radioactive isotope injected into the person, and it'll go into, across the blood-brain barrier and find these little bits of plaques and stick to them. Then you can start to see those build up. The other thing is you'll see an increase of tau protein also, which of course, like tau is a really important protein for microfilaments, right? And microfilaments are used for cellular structure. So neurons use microfilaments as like kind of scaffolding, but also very importantly, they work like kind of like little railroad tracks. They use like kinesin molecules to pull other molecules along, usually like a protein or something, sending it off where it needs to go in the cell, whether it's embedded in the membrane or it goes somewhere else. Anyway, these tau proteins are really important for that structure. And sometimes in people with Alzheimer's, they get overly phosphorylated, which means that a bunch of phosphorus groups are sticking to it. They become unstable. And since they're unstable, the cytoskeleton becomes unstable. These microfilaments start breaking and they start floating around in the cell. They're also a little bit sticky. They're not really like sticky, not the way beta amyloid is. Rather, they create these spiraled filaments that are wrapping around each other. And then these little filaments are jamming into each other and getting stuck. And they create what are called neurofibrillary, that's a tongue twister, neurofibrillary tangles on the inside of the cell. And they sort of choke it out because things can't go where they need to go. Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting. Mechanisms for Alzheimer's are always, very interesting. I did come across a paper recently where some people had found out that copper in the brain plays a big role in the mechanism of how amyloid beta plaques are forming. And they used a copper chelator called L10. They developed it themselves, but it's a really cheap molecule that they're easily able to develop. And they used it in rats to show pretty good promise. They used rat models for Alzheimer's, and they showed some reversal of that disease, which is pretty cool. So apparently by removing excess copper in the brain, they were able to help break up those beta amyloids. And by breaking up beta amyloids, those were able to dissolve better and go into the CSF and get carried out through the body's normal excretory system. Oh, thanks, Kitty. Thanks for the roses. And it's good to see you. I see you in my comments all the time. Also, if I ever don't answer your comments, I'm very sorry. Like I try to get to everybody, but I literally have so many comments, and I have a lot of stuff to do every day. I have a lot of work to do. So it's tough. I do listen to you all. I read your comments. I read almost every comment. I try to. I try to respond to all of them if I can. Sometimes I get back to them a little bit later because I'll take a screenshot and I'll go through my screenshots later, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is really interesting, but I want to talk about it a little more. So then I'll go and do a little more research, and then I'll come back to you. If I don't get to you, please, don't don't get upset with me. I'll try to get to you when I can. But I am listening to you. A lot of people said that I was talking too fast in my videos, so I'll take that to heart. I know my videos are a little bit sped up. A lot of people thought they were like really sped up. They thought they were like sped up 2 times as much or more. They're not. I just talk really fast sometimes. Sometimes I talk slow, but a lot of times I talk pretty fast. Those videos are actually barely sped up, and it's just to keep them short enough to like be like a short. But I can definitely stop speeding them up for people. I'll slow down. Because the concepts that I'm teaching aren't super easy to just pick up. I recognize that. I figure maybe you'll watch the video a few times to get it. Oh, sorry about the fun people you're dealing with in your comments. I bet that's just a wonderful time. Anyway, it's good to have you here. Anyway, yeah. So what was I talking about? Oh, I do read your comments. I noticed a lot of people were talking about how I could talk slower. I will. I won't speed up my videos anymore. I'll try to keep it within the time frame. If I really can't talk slowly and keep it in the time frame, I'll just do a series if it's really that complicated. Which I should do more of. I should do more series in my shorts. I am going to start making the long form content as well. I would like to actually hold hour long or maybe even just a half-hour long lectures where you can come in and actually learn about neuroscience on a deeper level, much deeper than just showing up for like 30 seconds for a fun fact, which is cool. Like fun facts are cool. People like those. And I like giving you fun facts about the brain, but also I do want to teach. I do believe that education should be free for everybody. That's like a fundamental core belief of mine. And so I want to try to make that available to whoever wants it, I love the brain. My brain's messed up. I know I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people with messed up brains, and we're all just trying to figure it out, and, in the process of trying to figure out my messed up brain, I've learned a lot about it. I've learned a lot about mine, and I've learned a lot about yours and how they're different and how they're the same. I've learned a lot of really cool stuff, and I've gotten in a lot of really wild arguments with people on the internet because they just don't want to believe what I have to say, which is fine. Some people just don't want to know things. It's been a good time. It's been a good time. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really happy to be back. Oh, trigeminal neuralgia. Sure. What would you like to know? Trigeminal neuralgia has like a really nasty nickname, by the way. It has to do with self-harm, the nickname. Treatments. Okay, let me talk a little bit about what it is for people who don't know. So your trigeminal nerve is obviously inside the brain, right? It's really close to your ear, and it runs along the side of your face. So it goes, it's one of your cranial nerves that runs alongside your face from your ear. And it goes up through your mouth into your jaw, like into your jaw, not just your lips, but like in your jaw. And it goes up through your forehead and into your sinuses. And this one has like a really nasty nickname that has to do with self-harm because people who have trigeminal neuralgia typically do not feel really great about life. It's a very painful neuralgia. It's a very painful type of neuralgia. As far as treatments go, I don't know what's effective because I know people with trigeminal neuralgia. I have experienced temporary symptoms of trigeminal neuralgia through like dental work that I've had to get done, which is one of the causes of that sort of thing. Luckily, my pain went away naturally on its own. It did take a few years, and it's not very common for that, by the way. But the one person I know who has it really bad has taken every medication in the world and it doesn't fix it. She's used ice packs and heat and all sorts of things, acupuncture. She's tried literally everything. And it's just a nightmare to live with. It's really unfortunate. It looks like one of the main treatments is using anticonvulsants like carbamazepine, carbamazepine, and carbazepine to block pain signals. Okay, so yeah, they're just like blocking pain. I don't think there's anything you can really do about the damage to the nerve other than like surgically you could go in and sever it, but I think that would cause a lot of issues. Um, your trigeminal nerve is like really important for a lot of different stuff. Yeah, there's pain blockers. You can just basically get injections, pain blockers. Um, sorry, I'm just reading a little bit about this. You get it sometimes too. Yeah. Do you get it from the dentist or what? that's how it happened to me. I had some pretty like extreme dental work that I had to get done, and it led to that. And then I found out that that's one of the causes of trigeminal neuralgia. Sometimes it happens, and sometimes it's temporary, which is really lucky. Yeah, it looks like the main medication treatments are anticonvulsants, muscle relaxants. Relaxants make sense to me, and antidepressants. Botox is being tried. You know what? Botox is being tried for a lot of stuff. I have some faith in Botox because Botox is kind of like a wonder treatment for certain things. Actually, don't quote me on that. It's not a wonder treatment. It's just it works for certain things. But there's a lot of risk that comes with Botox too, right? There's a reason why. Obviously, like Botox gets its name from botulism, so it's like there are dangers to it for sure. You got to be careful. I know people who have used Botox for like migraine pain, and it's worked pretty well. But you have to be careful because you never know when you're going to hit something and damage it permanently, and then it just doesn't move anymore. Um, and it can cause all sorts of problems. Like I know some people lose their ability to like swallow or do like really important functions. The like button makes SpongeBob themed bubbles.
Yeah,
Do it.
I am.
Oh, I can't see it. It's not showing it to me. I'm sad. I don't get to see the SpongeBob bubbles. Oh, there they are. Oh, it's like little bubble buddies. That's cute. I like that. I wonder what that's about. Is there like some kind of thing with SpongeBob right
I
now?
don't know. Burger King just did a thing with SpongeBob, so.
Is it like SpongeBob's birthday or something? That'd be pretty cool.
Mm.
Who's the creator of SpongeBob? Is that that's not Bush Hartman? Who made SpongeBob?
I can't recall.
I'm gonna look him up real
Oh,
quick.
new movie out.
Oh, it's because of a new movie. This definitely has to. Okay. I know this doesn't have to do with the brain necessarily, but I am going to talk to you about SpongeBob because actually, I'm not going to talk to you about SpongeBob. SpongeBob's fun. I'm going to talk to you about sponges because they're really crazy. They're wild animals. Steven Hillenberg. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he passed away quite a few years ago now. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Stephen, for your wonderful creation. It's absolutely bananas. So I'll tell you about sponges because they're a wild animal. They don't have a nervous system and they're really weird. The only thing that I know about them, or the only reason I know about them, is because my first research lab that I worked in was a chemosensory lab, which is we were an olfactory lab. So we studied your sense of smell, right? Specifically, we looked at the neural circuitry of how mice use their sense of smell to navigate their 3D environment, right? Anyway, chemosensation is the term we use for like detecting chemicals and odors are chemicals that we detect. So we refer to like the olfactory sense as a form of chemosensation. Mammals are not the only ones with that sense. Almost every animal has a version of that sense, all the way down to like even little critters like ants, right? Ants use primarily their antennae and they use those for chemosensation, right? But another animal that does use chemosensation is the sponge. So sponges are real bananas because you can put a sponge in a blender and you can blend it up so that it's all single cells, right, in a liquid. And you can put it back in an aquarium tank, and those cells will use their sense of smell, their chemosensation. Smell is a weird term for that because it's not quite the same as how we smell, but they'll find each other out in the water and they'll reform back into the original sponge, which is really weird. And even cooler than that is that you could do it to several sponges at the same time in the same blender and then put them in the aquarium tank and they'll seek each other out. They'll seek their own cells out and they'll diverge into their original bodies, right? Which is just bananas. There's no other animal. I'm pretty sure there's no other animal on the planet that can do that. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, they do not have a nervous system. One animal that is a sea creature that's really fun to talk about does have a nervous system. It's called a neural net. They don't have a brain. Somebody actually asked about these in my comments, and I was going to make a video about it. I should still make a video about it. Is the jellyfish. Specifically, there's a Medusa jellyfish. We know the term Medusa, right? Is the jellyfish that has it's your typical jellyfish. It has like a cap. It looks kind of like a mushroom with tentacles. And if you touch the tentacles, it stings you, right? So these Medusae actually have two life cycles, or they have two reproductive cycles throughout their lives. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to think about an animal because we have one generation, right? Like I came from a sperm and an egg, and it became a zygote, and it became, eventually a fetus, and then an infant, and then I grew up, and now here I am, and then I'm going to die, right? And like that's it. That's my whole life. I can, I can have sex and procreate, and then I can make a new child, and that child will literally go through the exact same process. But with jellyfish, they have a sexual reproductive cycle, and then they also have an asexual reproductive cycle, which is bananas. Because there aren't a lot of animals that do that. There are a few, and they're all really cool. All the ones that do it. But jellyfish, so the Medusa jellyfish have a sexual reproductive cycle. So some of them are male and some of them are female. So some of them shoot their sperm out and others shoot their eggs out. And the eggs and sperm can actually swim and find each other in the water. And they'll create like a little zygote, I guess, kind of. And this little thing will act like a little seed and it'll plug itself into the ground. And when it finds like a good source of nutrients and a safe, stable environment, it starts to grow like a piece of coral. It looks like a piece of coral. It's sessile. It cannot move. And it becomes like a stalk. It just grows up. And these little stalks are their asexual reproductive cycle. And so the stalk will grow up and then it grows little buds on the end. And those buds will break off and grow up to become the Medusae jellyfish. So it has both a sexual and an asexual reproductive cycle. There's a similar animal that does this. I can't remember the exact scientific name, but it's a type of slug. And I definitely need to do a video about this.
Banana slug?
It's not a banana slug. It's a different kind of slug. I can't remember the specific name. I'd have to look it up. But there's a type of slug that does the same thing, kind of. Where it also, it like kind of is like a mushroom. It'll plant itself when it finds like a good source of nutrients in like a real swampy area. And then it'll grow a stalk like a mushroom. And then that mushroom blows up and sends spores everywhere. But they're not spores. They're actually they're like these little single-celled pieces of slug, but they're single-celled organisms. And then they use their sense of chemosensation to seek each other out in the water, and they'll come together and form a new slug and start crawling away looking for a new place to go. And then once they find a good place to go, they'll plant themselves again, create a new stock, and then do the whole thing over again, which I think is absolutely wild. Life is bananas, and I love it. And I hate it. Yeah. Yeah. It's not great. It's fantastic, but also not great. Yeah. Animals are weird. What else? That has nothing to do with the nervous system. Oh, I'll tell you about the nervous system of jellyfish. It's a neural net. They don't even have a brain. So somebody asked, like, well, if they don't have a brain, how do they know to get food and avoid predators and stuff like that? So they don't have a brain. They actually like can't think. They're literally like a mouth and a butt at the same time. Their mouth is a butt. It's their butt and their mouth. It's the same thing. And but all they know how to do is move their tentacles. That's all they can do. And they can kind of like, they have like their cap that they can, they're like almost like a mantle. They can kind of like squish a little bit. But primarily, how they work, how they like seek things, they actually only seek light. That's what they seek. They seek light. So every tentacle, although it's sometimes too small to see, sometimes it's big enough you can see it, you'll see like a little bead on top of the tentacle. That's an eyeball. So all their tentacles have eyes. And when light hits this eye, it says, move this tentacle, right? So basically, whenever they light hits one side of their face or their whatever, their body, the eyes perceive that light and then tell those legs to move it that direction. And they basically head to areas where, and they're not thinking about this, at least as far as I can tell, they're not thinking about it at all. They just do it naturally. But they're heading to places where there's going to be bacteria in the water, and they can filter feed on the bacteria. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Animals with unique, interesting versions of brains. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And they're really simple brains too. And some we don't understand, and some we can completely and totally characterize. I think C. elegans is pretty famous for that, right? C. elegans is a nematode. It's like a little worm, kind of. And it's very famous because it's very small enough that you can actually classify its entire nervous system. And it was the first animal to have, yes, nematodes. It was the first animal to have its nervous system documented. Yeah. So it's the first animal. We know what every nerve in its body does. And we've known it for a while. But that's also what makes it a pretty good model organism in a lot of research. A lot of people use C. elegans for different things. We also use Drosophila, which are a type of fly. We know the Drosophila nervous system pretty well too. So they end up getting used in a lot of research, especially around like odor and stuff. Yeah. Speaking of which, more recently, some smarty pants, I can't remember off the top of my head, had created, they had mapped out the entire mouse nervous system, or they're getting close to it anyway. I know the Allen Brain Institute probably had a hand in it because they usually do. They have characterized pretty much every aspect of the mouse and rat brain, as well as I think a few other rodents and humans. Yeah. Shoot, we're getting there, We're getting there. What else? A lot of people asked about trauma encoding. Trauma encoding is always really cool. So, the way we form memories is pretty wild. We know that the hippocampus in the brain, it's named hippocampus. Apparently that means seahorse in Greek, I think. I'm not sure. I think it's Greek or something. But it's named that way because it's shaped a little bit like a seahorse, I guess. But it's a small part inside of the middle of your brain. We call it the medial temporal lobes. And we now know that it's responsible for the formation of new episodic memory. The way we know that is because of Henry Molaison, HM. So, HM was a patient that had severe epilepsy, and he was having so many seizures a day that his life was basically not livable. And he opted to go through the very extreme surgery to have the parts of his brain that were misfiring removed. And when they were, he had a really like the good news is his seizures went away completely, but the bad news is that he had a really profound side effect, which was that he could not form new memory. He could not remember anybody he met. He couldn't remember anything. The only thing he could remember was anything that happened before the surgery. So, like, luckily he was kind of aware of his circumstances because he remembered, like, going into surgery. But after that, he couldn't form any new memory. And so he would just, like, play around with the hospital staff. He was actually surprisingly um, a pretty, like, he was pretty upbeat about it. I feel like I would be a lot less upbeat about it. But yeah, so doctors would talk to him. They'd introduce themselves to him. Nurses would introduce themselves to him, and he would just forget them. Like 20 seconds later, it would be like he had never even met them in the first place. Uh, but they realized that even though he couldn't create new, like, semantic knowledge, new explicit knowledge, he was able to create new implicit knowledge, which means like stuff that you don't really talk about. It's more stuff that you do physically, like by nature, right? So, for instance, there was a task where he had to look in a mirror and trace an object. So the object was usually a star. It was a star pattern on a big piece of paper, and it would be on the desk in front of him. But he couldn't look at it and trace it. He had to look in the mirror and try to trace it, which, if you've ever done that, that's a little bit tough to do, right? Think about like shaving your face or combing your hair. These things become natural to us over time. But because we're looking in a mirror, at first they're kind of hard to do when we're first learning how to do those things. Anyway, he got really good at this task. The only thing is that he never remembered doing the task ever, right? It was always his first time to him. So he learned that procedural knowledge, new procedural memory, did not rely on the hippocampus, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool findings. And it's a cool word for sure. Yeah. So when we talk about memory, we usually refer to Baddeley's model of working memory at some point, because that's a very important aspect of like memory consolidation. Consolidation, of course, being the process of like storing long-term memories. We have another term for that. It's called long-term potentiation, LTP. And we also have long-term depression, LTD, which means forgetting. You're pulling stuff out of your long-term memory and then getting rid of it. But that's a different process. So you have your sensory memory. This lasts about anywhere from like a third of a second to like 3 seconds. It doesn't last very long because it's constantly being updated, right? And so basically your sensory memory is just always coming in. It's what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you taste? What do you smell? All this stuff coming in at all times. And then eventually something hits you that you pay attention to. And when you decide to pay your attention to something, it gets allocated into, or the resource that gets allocated for that is your short-term memory. So now you have your short-term memory working on this thing that you had just picked up, that you're paying attention to. Your short-term memory can typically hang on to things for about 20 seconds or so, right? And it'll sit there and mull it over. And you have two cognitive tools to use to do that. We have our visuospatial sketchpad and we have our phonological loop. So your visuospatial sketchpad is your ability, not everybody has this ability, but it's your ability to imagine a three-dimensional object or to imagine things as three-dimensional constructs, and kind of move them around or handle them physically but mentally. Kind of like if I tell you, hey, picture a red apple that's made of plastic spin it around and look at the bottom of it, right? You can mentally rotate this object or imagine what it feels like, things like that. You're using your visual spatial sketchpad for that. Again, there's probably about 20% of the population that can't do this, and that's totally normal. But we also have our phonological loop. This is when you're repeating something semantically back to yourself over and over again, or you may be just hanging on to something as an abstract construct, right? And when we do this, so now we're in our short-term memory, we also use our working memory to pull stuff from our long-term memory. And we say, well, what about my previous experience that I've stored long-term? Can I apply to this current situation? It's kind of like opening up a file, an old file where you've stored some sort of information, and you pull it out because it's relevant now, and you update it given the current circumstances, and then you file it away as a new file, right? It becomes a new file. Or you might decide, oh, the current information is not actually that relevant. You might toss it out, right? A huge and important factor in how well you're able to do this is your sleep, because a lot of this happens during REM. So that's REM is REM, rapid eye movement. We now know that you experience REM sleep when you're dreaming. And you'll go through different cycles of sleep throughout the night, but you have to hit that REM sleep to consolidate information into your long term. If you're not doing that, it doesn't mean you won't remember, but it does make it a lot harder to remember things in the long term. And another thing that's a very important aspect for memory is understanding the purpose of retrieval cues. So, a retrieval cue is usually some kind of key, and then I can give you like you can think of it like a dictionary, right? If you open a dictionary, you have a word that you're looking for, you look up the word, and then it gives you an answer, right? It's kind of like that. You're using like a key value pair if you're a coder. It's kind of like that. You're making a dictionary. So like if I said, every time I say the word gold, I want you to think of the word dog. And there's other key values there, right? Because I said gold and you have to think of a dog, you might think of a golden retriever, right? Thanks for the gifts, Alan. So importantly, emotion is a powerful cue. There are different powerful cues. Odor is one of them. A lot of time, and odor is responsible for your perception of flavor. Therefore, flavor is one of them. And a lot of people associate like cooking with their memories, just like mom used to make is a very, common colloquial saying. Thanks for the gifts. But emotion is one of the most powerful retrieval cues. It's so powerful. So here's something else we know about memory. Memory doesn't work the way a lot of people think it does. A lot of people think that memory is, thanks for the ice cream cone. Learning is inexhaustible for the mind because learning has no end. That's true. And it keeps going. And I've forgotten way more than I've learned. And I'm going to keep learning. Yeah. So where was I at? Okay. So memories have a physical place in your brain, right? They start off in the hippocampus because the hippocampus is sort of like a train station or like a hub, right? And it's thinking, how much of this is relevant and how much it isn't. And I'll keep what's relevant and I'll kick out what isn't. We'll just forget it. But what is relevant, we have to store it. Where are we going to store it? So the hippocampus will actually start directing things out through the entorhinal cortex into the cortices, which is the outer part of your brain, right? And so your cortices are all for different stuff. You have your frontal lobe, which is for processing information about, it's all your logic, right? Like your planning, decision-making, things like that. You have your parietal lobe up top, which is responsible for your sensation of motor and sensory in the peripheral body. You have your temporal lobes on the sides here, right? These are for your auditory processing primarily. In the back, you have your occipital lobe, which is for your visual processing, right? And so the hippocampus says, well, okay, I really need to remember, say, this dog, right? I really need to remember this dog. And so the dog's name goes in this part of the cortices. The dog's the way the fur smells goes to the olfactory system. The way that the dog's fur feels goes to the parietal lobe. The way the dog looks goes to the occipital lobe, and through other pathways. And the way the dog's bark sounds goes to the temporal lobes, and so on. Right. So all these different aspects become what's called an ensemble, right, of neural activity. And if you really want to get into something crazy, like something that's really it's almost unfathomable how weird this is. I have an ensemble for me, right? My skin feels a way. I look a certain way. I smell a certain way. I sound a certain way. All these aspects of me exist as an ensemble in my own head. And where my ensemble exists in my head is probably very similar to where I exist in your own head, which is bananas about how the brain allocates its resources. Because you and I don't exist in the same spot in my brain, but where you and I exist in your brain is probably pretty close to the same as where they exist in my brain, which is absolutely nutty, especially because of the wide variation in people's brains. But that's, that tells you like kind of how the brain stores information, right? It's very systematic. Anyway, memories have to be stored physically, and they are made up of components. And those components are dendritic spines. We now know that to process one single aspect of a memory, it typically takes about 100 dendritic spines communicating with other synapses, or as part of synapses. And so the way that those dendritic spines are maintained is through regular cellular metabolism. That's just the way healthy cells operate, healthy neurons. But importantly, that means that every time you remember something, you are actually building that memory physically from scratch inside your brain. Not totally from scratch, but like using the scaffolding that has already been built while you were sleeping and consolidated that memory. So, what that means is that you have to rebuild that memory every time that you remember it, right? And that means that over time memories can get distorted, especially if it takes you a really long time to come back to that memory, or they may not get consolidated properly. And this is where we get into trauma encoding, right? Sometimes memory just straight up can't be encoded because the event happened too quickly. Other times, because we need memory retrieval cues, it's like, oh man, it's like on the tip of my tongue, right? If I just had the right cue to cue me in, then I would remember. And because emotion is that way, when we're in a bad mood, we typically remember bad memories. And when we're in a good mood, we typically remember good memories. And it's such a powerful influencer that if we're in a bad mood and we remember a good memory, we will remember it as less good and we'll store it that way so that it becomes less good over time. And it might even eventually turn into a bad memory, which is really weird. But yeah, so one thing about trauma encoding is that even if you do remember it, which you can, and people do have memories of their trauma, but they can't access it. They feel like they've repressed it, but it's not so much repression as it is that memory is locked behind an emotional cue that is really hard to access. I feel like I'm pretty happy most of the time, and I feel like I'm pretty sad, like common enough, right? And I can, if I work at it, I can make myself feel happy, or I can make myself feel sad, right? Or I can understand the concept of feeling like a little bit afraid or anxious, but it's really hard to put yourself into an intense fear that is similar to the way that you felt when you first encoded trauma, and or like say like a state of dissociation or something similar to that. That can make it really difficult to access that memory. So that's why some people don't remember traumatic events. Either one, it was too quick for them to encode it, or two, it's locked behind a really intense emotional state that's just impossible to get to. Yeah, we're more likely to remember things that are painful when we're in pain. Yeah. Sorry, I missed some comments. Alan, thank you for the compliment and the gifts. I appreciate you. What do you know about consciousness, quantum field reception? I don't know much about quantum field reception. That's not really a place in neuroscience, but I know a lot of like kind of pseudoscience biologists will use the term quantum with stuff just to sound important, and it doesn't mean anything. There are quantum like biological processes. I just don't know much about them. As far as consciousness goes, that's a really hard topic to discuss, and I've tried to tackle that topic so many times, and I've kind of given up. I can talk about it very generally, but like basically, it comes down to this: like consciousness is what you define consciousness as. You know, doctors will define consciousness as being awake. If you're not passed out or dead, you're conscious. You know, otherwise you're unconscious if you're sleeping. uh, uh, we also talk about like consciousness in terms of like frames of mind, like whether or not something is able to be brought to our level of consciousness. One way to think about consciousness is the fact that we say I am conscious, but we don't really know what that means. I'm glad you're here, Alan. To shock brain into reliving emotional trauma. Ugh. Oh, shock therapy. No, shock therapy works for a different reason. No, you're not going to just shock somebody's brain to make them remember things. That'd be a terrible thing to do. You shock their brain and make them go through trauma, like aside from just shocking their brain. So the shocking the brain thing is only something we do in very extreme cases of depression. And really, the reason we do it is because it can kind of force neurotransmitters out into their synapses that are typically like difficult for that person to get, especially like for a sense of reward. You'll see a lot of this with like misaligned dopaminergic processing. Yeah. Frederico, consciousness and tech. Okay, sure, I'll look into it. I grabbed a book and I don't know what I did with my pen. Oh, it's over here. Hang on one sec. But like the bottom line is this: nobody can really say what consciousness is. I can tell you like my experience of consciousness, and I can tell you what I think causes it, but I can't tell you what it is for sure, and I don't know anybody that can to a way that satisfies everybody. So what I believe consciousness to be is a byproduct. I think it's an accident. I think it happens when we are introspective, and I think that the more, yeah, thank you, Alan. I think that the more you're able to introspect, and more importantly, the more you're able to understand yourself within the context of your environment, I think that brings about a level of consciousness. Right. So I think that some people are more conscious than others. I think that some animals as a species are more conscious than others. And it can get really interesting because it's like, well, what is it that makes something sure, like self-awareness? It could be self-awareness, or awareness of other things too. I think it's just tools. I have a lot of tools. I have a ton of tools. And at some point, those tools are just really aware of what's going on around me. But like, if you think about it, so here's another thing I should do a video about that somebody brought up. They said, man, I've always had a healthy brain, no medical problems, nothing like that. But the other day I blacked out and I was going to work and I just showed up there and it really freaked me out. Can you tell me anything about that? And it's like, yeah, I can tell you all about that. That happens to everybody. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens once in a while to just about everyone. Maybe not everybody, but like a lot of people experience it. It's like, what is this weird blackout thing I just did randomly? That's alarming, right? Where was I for that? I wasn't even there for that. And it's like, okay, so your consciousness wasn't there, but your body was still off walking around or driving. It happens a lot when people are driving. Let me tell you what it is. Your consciousness is kind of, and I like this explanation. I got this from David Eagleman. He has a good explanation, I think. Your consciousness is sort of like the CEO of your brain. It actually takes up a very small part of your brain. It's very internal. It's very small, but it doesn't necessarily need to be awake, right? The only time it needs to be awake is to solve a complex problem, to put everything together that your brain can't do subconsciously on its own. We're talking about everyday life, right? Your brain on its own is very good at solving obscure and abstract problems. And it does that all the time. That's why, it'll work on a problem for like years. And then suddenly it just feeds the idea up to you. Once it solves it, it feeds the idea to you. And you go, Eureka, I'm a genius. I just thought of something great. But it's like you didn't just think of that. Your brain's been working on that for a really long time. And then it popped it into your head. And now you're taking credit for it. It's fine if you take credit for it. It's still your brain. But just know that it wasn't your conscious self that did that, right? The bottom line is this. Humans have evolved to make our lives easy and to conserve energy. We've evolved to do that because our ancestors needed that, right? And our brains have evolved far past our bodies. So our bodies still, and when I say our brain, I mean our minds. Our brains are pretty evolved, but our minds, specifically how we're using our brain, is very evolved as opposed to the physiology. So, sorry, let me think. I kind of lost my train of thought. There's everything's so interconnected. You can go off on a million tangents, right? And we already have. But basically, when you first go to your job, day one, it's your first day of the job. That's super anxiety inducing, right? And you will remember everything about that event. That trip to work, even though it's like a 15-minute drive, it will feel like 2 hours, right? And you're going to remember every little aspect. I'm going to remember, going through this light. I hit every stoplight on the way. And, and then there was a guy talking on his phone crossing the street when the sign said don't walk. And I almost hit that guy. And, all these things happen. And you're just like, man, how am I ever going to get through this, right? And it's because you're so aware and conscious and just aware of everything happening around you, right? And it can be very anxiety inducing. But now let's say you've worked there for 5 or 10 years, right? And not had a problem. You know where every little bush is, you know where every crosswalk is, yes, adrenaline's a huge part of this process. Your alertness, right? You know where every single, and now's about the time kids are going to school, which means that one kid who's always late is going to book it across this road. I know that. And so I'm going to be well aware of it ahead of time and just, so you do all these little things to manipulate your trip, right? As you learn. And hyper awareness and overstimulation. Explain it to me. I will. But essentially, like as you are becoming more and more understanding of your environment and things do not change, they don't diverge, you know what to expect. And then your subconscious can start handling the drive for you. Now you, the person, the thing that wakes up in the morning and says, I'm me and I'm awake and I'm ready for breakfast, that thing doesn't need to be there anymore. And so it won't be. Because that thing takes a lot of energy to drive the wheel, right? So since we don't need you right now, we'll wake you up when it's time to wake you up. That's it. So you'll actually subconsciously drive your car all the way to work, and you'll wake up in the parking lot when it's time to figure out how to get in the door, and your brain will go, and then you'll go, how did I get here? Right? Oh man, I've never done that before. I just blacked out on my way to work. And then that's pretty alarming and might wake you up a little bit. And you might pay extra attention to your trip for a few days. But it's bound to happen again. Hyper awareness and overstimulation. Give me 1 second. Let me drink some water. Been yammering on for almost an hour. Jeez. Thanks for the questions, everybody. Hippocampus. Hyper awareness and overstimulation. Yeah. So, it's hard to say what overstimulation is. It definitely comes about from a number of different things and can look like different things to different people. But if you're talking about like hyper awareness, is your ability to pay attention to too many things at once, right? Really, you just need to pay attention to whatever's in front of you. You cannot, and it does not matter who you are or what you think you're capable of. It does not matter who you talk to. You cannot think of more than one thing at one time. It is not possible. You can't. The only thing you can do is switch your attention to something else and then back. Hi, Anna. We're doing all right. Yeah, we're doing good. How are you doing? So because people actually, I'm not a hater. It's just reality. You cannot think of two things at the same time. You can switch your attention back and forth really fast, but you can't do both. That's good to hear, Anna. I'm glad to see you here. So some people who multitask are actually really good at switching back and forth, right? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But the problem is that because you're switching back and forth, you're actually wasting a ton of your energy doing that. Because you have to switch contexts. It's not just this idea and then that idea. It's this idea which comes with this entire framework of networking skills and ensembles in my brain back to this idea, which is an entirely different set of ensembles going on in my brain. Yes, when you're zoned out while you're driving. And you can switch back and forth between those things, but you're going to zap all of your brain's energy very quickly, which is why these people are generally like really tired, right? And at some point, you can start getting really good at this. I'm not just going to switch between 1 and 2 tasks. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4 tasks, and maybe a 5th task. Some people can do this, and some people have the endurance to do it for a while. Thanks for the very odd SpongeBob gift. That was very fun. Yeah, it was good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yes, the brain burns a ton of calories, right? When we're sitting doing nothing, we're not cognating whatsoever. We're just like chilling, watching a video or something, right? Something dumb, not even engaging, right? We use about 25% of our caloric intake, our food, about a quarter of it all goes to our brain doing nothing. So you can only imagine if you're like the kind of person running around thinking of a bunch of different things at the same. Anyway, people who get overstimulated often can't help it, but what they're doing is that they're switching between too many tasks too quickly, and they can't hang on to any one task. And I think it's starting to create something akin to like a micro seizure. I'm not sure. But again, it can manifest for any number of reasons, and it manifests differently in everybody. That Wiggly gift was really weird. Oh, cheeky Wiggly. Okay, that makes sense. I like that. I love SpongeBob so much. I grew up on SpongeBob, and that was just the weirdest cartoon. It definitely explains a lot of weird stuff about me, I guess. Yeah. Where was I? I was talking about memory. But yeah, so that's why sometimes, we don't. So like working back to like talking about memory earlier, sometimes we actually just don't even record anything because it's not important to record. That's the reason why you black out, is because you didn't record anything. And blacking out happens for one of two reasons. Either you didn't record it because it wasn't important, or you couldn't record it because the hardware is broken, which often happens when you take drugs or are drinking, right? Why acute back pain feels like an insane fatigue few months prior to disc damage instead of sharp pain. I'm actually not sure. I definitely, so like, also Fluffy family, it's good to see you. I see you in my comments all the time. I'm glad you're here. I think you were here for our last live. But like spinal pain is really weird. It doesn't always manifest as pain, right? When we talk about like pain, what are we talking about? We're talking about nociception, right? Nociception is the term for your sense of pain. We think we have like 5, 6 senses. We have more. We have lots of senses. Your sense of pain is one of them. When you mess with pain circuits, they do funny things, especially when you get like neuropathy, right? They don't always like hurt. A lot of times they feel itchy. Uh, a lot of times they feel itchy, or sometimes they'll feel like they're vibrating. You know, you get kind of, so everybody's different, and it also depends on like what's causing the problem, but it can manifest really strangely. Um, but like the insane fatigue that you're talking about makes sense to me because your body's trying to heal. And even though you couldn't feel pain and didn't know what you were healing from, your body knows it's trying to heal something. And so it was trying to get you to sleep, you know? Um, and if that's happening to you, sorry, I assumed it was, is why you brought it up. But if that is happening to you, I'm sorry that that did. Your dog's going nuts. What kind of dog do you have? Tell me all about your dog. I love your dog already. What I want you to know is I do have a video that I'm filming about dogs. There was recently a paper done on neural circuitry in dogs and their reward centers, finding out that dogs find their owners to be, in some cases, just as rewarding as food, meaning the social connection with their owner is just as rewarding as food, which is like, okay, I guess like colloquially we understand that maybe some of the time or most of the time, but like from a scientific perspective, it's a pretty big finding, honestly. Having anxiety in theory mean that, oh, sorry, TikTok thinks I'm fake. Okay. Does having anxiety, in theory, mean my brain is burning more energy? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because you're mulling over ideas that, well, what is anxiety, right? It can be different things for different people. Some might call it like an overactive state of alertness. But I think like for a lot of people, it's like worrying about the future. And when you worry about the future, you can worry ad infinitum, right? You can keep worrying about the future and never stop because you never run out of things to worry about. Any number of things can go any number of ways wrong at any time, right? So if you're the kind of person who's kind of stuck thinking towards the future and what could go wrong, yeah, you're burning a lot of energy because not only do you still have to think about all the things that you have to think about throughout the day, i.e., um, what homework do I have to do today, or actively what homework am I doing, or am I at work today and what work am I doing, or what am I going to have for dinner? Do I need to cook for the family, or etc. You have all these things that you still have to think about, and then on top of that, you have your mind going off on a world of stuff that's never even going to happen to you. I think it was Ernest Hemingway who said, I've lived through 1,000 traumatic disasters and only one of them's ever actually happened. Uh, yeah. Yeah, Fluffy, if that happened to you, I think you should listen and I think you should rest if that's available to you. Thoughts on spinal surgery? Husband had his neck broken before he had to get it. I'm sorry to hear about your husband. Um, Raven's the dog. I love that name. Uh, yeah, sorry. I read a couple comments and then got confused. Um, what are my thoughts on spinal surgery? I think that spinal surgery should be put off until it's the only thing you can do. But I think in some people's case, it is the only thing to do, and you need to do it right away. It sounds like in your husband's case, he needed to get it right away. Uh, but like, yeah, messing with the spine anytime is really dangerous. It's really dangerous, and the outcomes are not always great. In fact, like most of the time, they're not good. Even the best outcomes are usually like kind of suck a little bit. So I'm really sorry to hear about your husband. I hope he recovers well. And like truly, like some people do recover really well. I know, I my dad broke his neck in a really bad car accident we were in, and he had to have a bone. He actually broke his neck, got out of the car, and I was ejected from the vehicle. I was just a little guy at the time. I was 7 years old, but he actually got out of the car and picked me up out of the street and carried me off to the side of the road with a broken neck. But anyway, they went into his hip, grafted a bone in there, and that seemed to do the trick. He's fine now. But his neck was like kind of stiff. I knew he couldn't like turn it all the way for a few years. Yeah. I think if I knew how back pain can feel, you wouldn't have damaged it. Yeah. Yeah, that's tough too, right? Because like you get pain signals for a reason, right? Pain signals are very important because yeah, don't touch it. This is damaged or this is tender or this is healing or whatever, but don't touch it. And then when you get weird like neuropathic pain, right? Because it doesn't always manifest as pain. Sometimes it's just really itchy. And it's like this is this weird itchy thing, and I can't scratch it. I try to scratch it, it's under my skin. Or sometimes it's like, oh, I just feel this weird like twitching or buzzing. Doesn't really necessarily make you think that you're actually like in pain or like something really bad might be happening. Yeah, it is rough. Oh, he got blown up overseas. I'm sorry to hear about that. I'm glad he's alive. MECFS. I actually don't know enough about it to feel comfortably explaining it. I do want to look more into it. I know that there are other people close to me that are experiencing this the same thing.
The short of it is that it has to do with the mitochondria's inability to produce energy effectively.
My wife is informing me that it has to do with the mitochondria. You know the one. In its inability to produce energy effectively. What?
It's slacking on the job.
She says it's slacking. It's being lazy. Mitochondria are being lazy. They're not quantum enough. I will. Oh, let me write this down. Sorry. And Pekka, it's good to see you. Also, thank you so much for showing up. I always love seeing you. Yeah. Also, thank you everybody for making this such a cool community. Like it's wild. It's wild.
They said that you keep lagging.
Oh, I hope I'm not lagging. Hopefully that I don't know what to do to fix that. Hopefully stuff's being a problem.
From the Wi-Fi.
Bad pain from it. Anna, man. The VA is considering doing another surgery. Okay. I don't know enough about your situation. I can't advise you on anything. Also, I can't advise you on anything anyway because I'm not a medical person. But I do want to know more about your husband's situation. If you're willing to like share it with me, you definitely don't have to do it here. You could send me a message, a personal message if you want. That would be fine. Just if you want to. Don't at all feel obligated to. But I am interested to know more. That was the majority of my experience. If you actually look into my publications, 6 of them are from Yale doing spinal cord injury research. But I was working with animal models, not humans. But I did work at the VA hospital at Yale. Is back injection truly anti-inflammatory, or they just block pain signals? I'm not sure. It would depend on the issue. So like you would use something anti-inflammatory if something's like swollen and it's putting pressure on a nerve and causing a ton of pain that way. In the case where things are swollen, putting pressure on the nerve, or the nerve is like damaged and it's signaling incorrectly, or perhaps there's a genetic issue that's causing a nerve to signal when it shouldn't. There could be all sorts of reasons. Then you might need to block the signal because there's no way to get it to like stop on its own. Thanks. Yeah, I'm grateful to still be alive. Sorry that I'm lagging. Also, it might seem like I'm lagging if I'm like just answering your questions. I kind of just go to questions one at a time. Your poor mitochondria. Hi, Mom. Yeah, MECFS is the worst. I've heard that. Thanks, Pekka. Yeah, I'm glad to be doing them. Not many brain people on TikTok, and it's nice to see someone talking about brain stuff. Yeah, please DM me for sure. Thanks, Anna. Yeah, here's the thing. For those who don't know, if anybody's new here, my name's Jackie. I'm a neuroscientist. I have a master's from the University of Oregon. My master's is actually in psychology, but all my research experience for the past 10 years has been in systems neuroscience. I've studied the olfactory system, and I've also studied the nociceptive system, particularly in the spinal cord injury related specific. But Yeah, that's my experience, and I love neuroscience. I love talking about the brain. I love talking about the spine. I love talking about weird crap that happens when stuff goes wrong, and I love sharing about my own experience. You know, sometimes it's tough, but I do like to share it just in case somebody can relate. Um, you know, kind of what got me into neuroscience was the fact that I was in that really bad accident when I was a child. It actually messed up my brain really bad, and I wasn't able to form new memories. I was a lot like Henry Molaison, right? Um, and I was like that for a couple of years. It took working with a team of neuroscientists for a really long time, neurologists for a really long time, to get my brain back to a place where it would start working kind of like typically, I guess. And I'm back, baby. And since then, you know, I've had like this love for neuroscience and understanding the brain and how people think and how they remember and all this stuff. I am hoping to pursue my PhD, although I got to come up with the money for my application. But I am submitting an application to a university near where I live, hoping to finish that, finish my PhD. And yeah, I mean, it's been a decade coming. I've been working on it. So, hi, Jim. Oh, I see. Yeah. It's actually lagging. Okay, I'm sorry. I can try disconnecting from the Wi-Fi for a second. If that messes anything up, I'm sorry, but I'll be right back. Hang on. Hopefully this works. Oh, doing fine now. Okay, good.
It stopped. Wait, what did you do? You're off the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, and then I pop back on it.
Oh, and then
Thank you. C squared equals C. I don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I appreciate the motivation and the applause. TikTok memory too full? I hope not. I'm not lagging. Okay, good. I know some people were complaining that I was for a bit. But yeah, again, anybody who's new to my channel, I like my tenets are that I believe education should be free. It's BS that it's not. It's a huge scam the way it is right now. I had to pay a ton of money for my education and still paying a ton of money, and I'm very much in debt because of it. I don't want anybody else to be in that kind of debt. I'm happy to share everything I have for free. And on YouTube, you can find me on YouTube, by the way. Hi, everybody on YouTube. I'm also live there. But you know, I post my short form content for now. Eventually, I'm going to have long form content coming out where I'm going to give actual lectures the way I used to do at the University of Oregon. But yeah, I'll teach people everything I know. You know, what is neuroscience? How do we study the brain? Where did that even come from? Who was the first to do it? What did we think the brain was when we first discovered the brain? Right? All these things are very interesting. Who's Santiago Ramon y Cajal, right? That person is absolutely bananas. So I want to teach you all about that. I want to teach you about Luigi and how he shocked frog legs to figure out that the nervous system was electrical. And I want to teach you about how we understand learning and memory work and things like, what happens when stuff goes wrong with schizophrenia or with Alzheimer's disease and things like that. Education is a business. Everything's a business in the US for sure. And it's not great. Yes, Anna, absolutely. I want to teach the world. That's what I want to do. I just want people to be smarter, And I feel like neuroscience is a great way to start that because it helps you to understand yourself. It's you thinking about you, right? Your brain is thinking about itself and how it thinks. And it's thinking about itself and how it thinks about itself, which is really interesting. But my point is, it might give you a higher level of consciousness, a higher state of awareness, if you're able to understand these things about yourself. Efficient and effective, and it's not that way now. Yeah, correct. That's hence why they just shoot you with a fire hose and expect you to take a drink from it. And the whole time you're just getting blasted in the face with knowledge, and they don't give you enough time to figure out anything. The only thing people do is they jam their heads full of information long enough to take a final and hopefully get a good grade. And then it's like, bam, you get this piece of paper that says you did it. But then, and then you think about how we train doctors, right? Medical professionals have to do this. And it's like they don't get any sleep. They don't consolidate anything. They're taking probably supplements, okay, to try to get through it. And by the end, what do they remember? Nothing. They have to relearn everything from scratch in the field, right? That's a terrible way to train people in medical fields or otherwise. Neuroscience is fascinating, Anna. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. I love studying the brain and the spine and the peripheral nervous system too. I love it all because it's literally your entire body. It's everything, right? It literally is everything. Good, fluffy family. That's good to hear. Yeah, you know what? I actually don't remember much from college. What I do remember is being in grad school and having to teach for my stipend. And that's where I really got to learn everything because you actually learn more by teaching anyway. And you learn what you don't know very quickly because people ask questions and you try to answer questions and you're like, I have no idea. Right. And there's no spaced repetition. That's like the biggest thing, right? That's why like a lot of med school students use Anki and things like that, the Anki Dex. If you don't know what that is, it's like an application you can use on your computer or your phone, and it does that spaced repetition thing, which is one of the most important and effective modes for learning something from scratch is to test yourself on it regularly. And it tests you in this way. It shows you a flashcard, and you either get it horribly wrong, kind of wrong, a little bit right, or totally right. And so you can pick whichever one, and it'll show that card to you again later and later in longer intervals, depending on how well you do. So I highly recommend it. It's a great tool. You can use it for so much more than medicine. You can use it to learn anything. Yeah, supplements, exactly. Use it or lose it. That's what they say. Maybe it's use it or you'll put it somewhere where you forgot it, and then you have to go find it again. Is that why doctors Google so much? No sleep? Yeah, probably. Oh, man. It wouldn't be so bad if they at least listen to their patients, We went to school not eating on time or at all and always sleep deprived. Yeah, that's like literally the worst way to learn. Hang on one sec. I'm like running out of breath. I need to drink some water and just take a break. Sorry, thanks. Yeah, how can you be expected to learn when you are given the worst conditions for learning? Maybe I should just dedicate my life to making a different kind of school. That wouldn't be such a bad idea, actually. Maybe I should start a GoFundMe. But like in reality, school doesn't give you food, right? Or Republicans make a huge stink about it. You're not getting adequate nutrition. You aren't getting good sleep because you always have to get up super early and not necessarily not everybody wakes up early. It's not good biologically for everybody. And then you're loaded with stress and you don't get any amount of time to study any one subject. You have to study like 6 to 8 subjects or maybe like 4 to 6 subjects or something, and they're all super complicated and really you have to know them really in depth, but you only get like 3 or 4 days to really understand all of them at the same time before you move on to the next thing, right? It's a bananas way to live. It doesn't make any sense. Based on the Rockefeller system, isn't everything? Yeah. No, I mean, you're 100% correct. It's messed up. Oh, your dog's getting wild. Will you do me a favor if you're still here, Anna, and hug your dog for me and tell them I love them? Raven. I love Raven. I want you to know that. Yeah, Anki, that's how you spell it for sure. We have first responders that don't have good sleep schedules. I don't wonder how Or I wonder how they're not crazy. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, like that's a stressful job too. Those people do go crazy, right? And especially like in the beginning of COVID too, when a lot of first responders died because COVID killed them, right? And then we had like these heartwarming stories of like teenagers learning how to become first responders so they can drive ambulances and try to save people's lives. And it's like, that's not heartwarming. We literally ran out of first responders. You know, that's scary. And then we had kids doing it. That's horrifying. They do teach about the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. Realist, they should teach that to everybody. I agree with you, right? And for anybody who doesn't know, Ebbinghaus's learning curve is hopefully, I don't know how you see me. I know that I'm maybe reversed, but hopefully this looks right. But when you first learn a new thing, right? If I were to test you 1 second later, you'd remember it with like 99 to 100% accuracy. But if I waited like 10 minutes, it would start dropping off pretty rapidly. What the amount you would remember, and to a point, it's like maybe like a day later, you only remember about 10% of what you had originally learned. And then it starts to like plateau. That's the Ebbinghaus learning curve. It just sort of like drops down really steep and then plateaus. And then the more you study that same thing, that plateau gets a little bit higher, but it still drops down pretty steep and then plateaus. That's what Realist is talking about. Funny enough, your only memory that doesn't have a curve like that is your odor memory. Turns out we remember smells very well. It's like it drops to 80% and stays at 80%, and it can do that for like a decade. New York City has a program like this called Community Schools, food, washers, therapists, study rooms, etc. That's awesome. Also, Harmony Nerd, it is so good to see you. Yeah, we're in New York. We gotta figure this out. Maybe I can like volunteer some of my time remotely or something. Harm and I are very much doing it is so cool. Harmony and I are doing the social distancing still because COVID's still a real thing. And I would like to try to donate some of my time. Like I do donate some of my time, right? I'm here teaching you, talking with you guys. This is more for entertainment. I really like to reach out to people that are actually trying to learn and just help them whatever way I can. First responders in Brooklyn sleeping in their cars. That's so sad. It's really bumming me out. Oh. A team member for the Hudson Search and Rescue after the first of the year. That's awesome, Jim. I can't wait to hear more about that. I want to know more about that. Different parts of the brain for smells? What do you mean? Oh, are you referring to like why memory is different?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, okay, here's something really cool about memory and your sense of smell. Let me tell you about the brain. This guy, right? He's fun. The one problem with him is that neurons that die don't come back. Usually your cells, if your skin cells die, other skin cells will grow and replace it. Neurons don't really do that, except I lied to you just now. We actually really thought that neurons didn't do this, but we have since recently found 2 brain areas that do regenerate neurons. They undergo what we call neurogenesis, right? And that's the hippocampus, responsible for forming new memories, right? And the olfactory system, which is really funny because if you kind of look at the way that it's set up, it looks a little bit like a hippocampus on its own, but real small. So that's a really interesting thing and may have something to do with why Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve is not so steep with olfactory memory, because your olfactory system is using its own little chunk of brain that does its own thing separate from the rest of the brain. If you're curious, your olfactory bulbs, you see these like little white tracks here, and I'll hold it up to this camera as well for YouTube. Those little white tracks, the 2 that are just running right up in the middle here, you can see them right here. So those are your olfactory tracks. They lead to the ends, which are called olfactory bulbs. They're about this big. That brain is like almost accurate to a human brain. You could see I could actually like fit this in my head. It's probably about the size of my brain. Um, and I've held several human brains. They're about that size. But the olfactory bulbs are pretty small, right? What's funny is our olfactory bulbs are about the same size as a mouse's. And a mouse's olfactory bulbs make up about a third of its brain. So it tells you how important odor memory is for mice. Isn't smell processing one of the only brain processes that doesn't have to pass through the thalamus? That's correct, Harmony Nerd. Yes. It is the only one, to my knowledge. I think everything else does have to, or maybe gustation may not have to. Your sense of taste. I'm not sure if it does, although it might actually. It might, for the fact that you use your tongue, and your tongue has muscles that muscles and nerves that need to run to the parietal lobe and the cerebellum as well, right? For like really fine movement. So they probably need to pass through the thalamus as well. But your olfactory system, it goes straight to the brain. It's its own thing. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And that may also, like you're pointing out, that may have something to do with why odor memory is so powerful. It doesn't need to be redirected anywhere. Wear a mask because this year the flu is bad. My brain has had enough viral impact. Yeah, for sure. Also, COVID is really bad, and people forget that because I guess as a society we're pretending it isn't happening, but it really is, and it's very bad. And also, those viruses cause things like cancer, and also all sorts of horrible things to happen. So definitely wear a mask, protect yourself, protect the people you love. Worked for McGraw Hill. I don't know what that is. They sponsor the community schools.
You know what McGraw Hill is? It's a publishing company for
Oh, do I?
textbooks.
Yes, I do. Actually, sorry, Harmony Nerd. I totally know what that is. I probably have a few of their, I don't know. At least, I bet you Clinical Neuroanatomy is published there. My Clinical Neuroanatomy book was written by my old boss at that spinal cord injury lab. Where did I get the brain? I don't know, actually. I've had it for years. Where did I get this, Harm? Internet?
Yeah, I think it was from Amazon or something.
It must have been like Amazon or something. I have no idea where I got this. I was going to give it away as a prize because my originally I blew up on the internet and I was just exploding. I just rapidly accumulating followers, and I was going to give it away as like a raffle, but life got away from me. I might still do that if people are interested. But hey, you know what? Here's another thing. I'm really close to monetizing on all platforms. And if y'all help me with that, that'd be awesome. Because one, I would like to do this in a way that I could actually like survive. But like two, if I can afford it, I really want to start adding like graphics to my videos, like things that will help as visual aids, because a lot of people in my comments had talked about, oh, this is really good information. It's a little bit dense though, and it's kind of hard to visualize. If you could like draw it out or something. So I will try to do more of that, but if I am able to monetize, I'd like to direct some of that money towards like maybe getting access to tools or maybe paying somebody to help edit a few videos to add some stuff like that in. Almost there. Is there a way to 3D print brain from CT scan? Yes. Yeah, there is. And we've been doing that for a while. Actually, my cohort, when I first started my PhD program at the University of Oregon years and years ago, this was like 2018, my cohort had a blast scanning their own brains in an fMRI and using the data file to print their brain out, like with a 3D printer. What do I need to monetize? I'm actually almost there. What I need is just more views. That's literally it. I need more views on YouTube as well. A lot more on YouTube, but you know, I'm hoping I'll get there eventually. Not in the creator program. Yeah, I used to be actually like years ago, but I fell out of the creator program because I was inactive on this platform for such a long time. You're right, Fluffy Family. I should go live more often. I want to. I'm just so tired. I'm very busy. I'm very busy because I tutor a lot of people, and I'm working on renovating this house for our friends. And it's just busy. It's so busy. It's hard to have the energy to go live. But I will start doing that more. I do listen to y'all, by the way. I know that I've been talking too fast. I'll try to slow down. I know that my videos can be a little bit longer. I know that I could probably do multi-part series. And also, I can add visuals wherever possible. And I'll try to do that. Yeah, lives are exhausting. It's not talking to myself, but it is really difficult having a conversation with multiple people while staring at my own face. That's a little bit disembodying, and it's not my favorite aspect of it because I really like meeting with people face to face. I would love it if I could see all your faces and be able to talk with you one on one. That would be great, or even in a group. Well, I mean, we can do that. I bet we could figure that out over Discord or something. Yeah, we're kind of like in a weird limbo. Harm and I are right now. Loving between two pages, living between two places. That's really funny. That's not even the wildest typo you've typed. What was it? Can I tell them about the? I'm gonna tell them.
What
So
is it?
Harm one time had to.
Oh, the doctor.
Yeah, had to. Harm, tell them the story. Come here and tell them.
Can y'all hear me off camera?
Can you hear Harm? Can I pass her the microphone? Hang on. She'll tell you. Hang on one sec. It's a really dumb story. It's super funny.
It's dumb. It's quick. Okay, so one time I was communicating with one of my doctors via MyChart, for those who know what that is. For those who don't, it's a program where all of your medical stuff goes and you can email your doctors directly. So I was reaching out to a doctor. And I typed this long-ish message asking about some follow-up questions that I had from some appointment. And I don't know why, but the greeting of the email, just the first 2 or 3 words were translated to Spanish. I have no idea why or how this happened. The rest of it remained in English. So what I sent to this doctor, whose name is Linda, Linda means beautiful in Spanish, for those who don't know, was hello, beautiful. And then the rest of the message was just regular. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know why. I had to send a very awkward follow-up message being like, I'm so sorry. I am not trying to sexually harass you via MyChart. It was weird.
So that's fun. Yeah, buenos dias. Yeah, what if that'd be even weirder? What if your doctor reciprocated? She's all, hey, gorgeous. Yeah, your test came back fine. We could do Discord. Discord would be cool. Oh, there's that creepy alarm. I don't know if y'all can hear that creepy alarm. I'm going to try to, maybe you can hear it by the window. I don't know. It might be hard to hear. It kind of sounds like the alarm from Silent Hill.
It's very ominous.
And they this town just does it for whatever reason. Literally for nothing.
If anyone hears from the Midwest, the tornado sirens, that's what it sounds like. But it's just for the local fire department. So anytime they leave to go respond to any call, even routine calls, they blare this fucking tornado siren is what it sounds like. It's very scary.
If you couldn't hear Harm, what she was saying was that it sounds like the Colorado tornado siren, but it's literally just for anything that the fire department just goes on. Technology is pranking us. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it's all this is the advanced world, right? I remember there were a lot of stories about people's Alexas recording them when they didn't know it and sending it to the absolute wrong person, the person that it would get them in trouble. Okay, you could hear her. Good. Not the alarm though. Yeah, it's super spooky. It sounds like a tornado alarm. It's very creepy, and it goes off all the time. I should work that into my videos somehow. It'd be creepy. Yeah. My first live back on YouTube. It's been fun. It's been an hour and a half. Jeez. How do I like New York? We like it okay. We like it a lot better than Connecticut, that's for sure. I did not like living in Connecticut. I liked some aspects of it. Definitely like where we lived in New Haven, there were some downsides, but we were around some really good Indian and Thai food places, and I miss that a lot. I miss that a lot. We're not around like good food like that now. But we do have more food options, especially like grocery stores. In New Haven, we were kind of in a food desert, whereas here we have like two grocery stores right next to us. Hey, thanks. Yeah, I like it here so far. The people here are pretty cool for the most part. Some of the drivers can be jerks. Other than that, I think people are generally pretty cool. I do like that people here have not been weird about us wearing masks in public like they were in New Haven.
People mind their own business.
People mind their own business here, it seems like. Like they might give us the occasional like weird stare or something, but they don't cough at us or sneeze at us on purpose for the most part.
I don't know how your internet is doing, but mine is like not working for me.
Uh-oh. I think my internet looks okay. Seems to be fine.
It like disconnected me from your live, and I'm trying to get back.
Uh-oh. Hopefully, did anybody else get disconnected?
Okay.
Hopefully not. Depends where you are in New York, because I grew up on the suburban Syracuse, and they do not mind their business. Oh, I don't know where that is. Yeah, is this live lagging for anybody? Hopefully not on YouTube. Hopefully it's all good. Not like anybody's watching on YouTube. It's just Harm showing up, checking stuff out. I don't think anybody knows I'm live on YouTube. Okay, good. No lagging. Yeah, small towns just don't know how to mind their business, you know? Central, way upstate, almost Canada. Okay, gotcha. You know, I bet that's probably not too different from where I grew up in Montana. Also right next to Canada. We're pretty close. Lots of people coughed, not on purpose, but they sure did. And kids. Yeah. That's because people have COVID. A lot of COVID and other things. Probably COVID. We got to be careful, you know. It's real and people are ignoring it. Yeah, small towns they have good sides, they have bad sides. It's nice when you're in a small town, everybody knows you, you can like get help wherever, you know, like people you know, there's like generally a pretty chill vibe, but especially if it's like a really like religious small town, people can be kind of judgy. And Hi Hannah, thanks so much. Also, it's good to know that and Pete's here too. Short glitches, now it's okay. Okay, awesome. I'm glad people are watching on YouTube. Cool. Yeah, if you have any questions about the brain, please ask. Sorry for like if it seems like I'm ignoring you. I'm not. It's just this is my first live back on YouTube. I didn't expect anybody to show up.
You're tandem. For anyone not aware, you're tandem living between TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah, I'm kind of like back and forth here. Yeah, one harmony is actually a Tara. Is it Tara? Sorry if I messed up your name. I'm so sorry.
Oh, me in the background harmony is the same harmony in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Sorry if that's confusing.
Yeah, Full Metal Harmony is my wife. She's the one telling the story.
I'm just trying not to be super annoying by talking constantly.
Multitasking can be a little tedious, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I just didn't know I needed to be aware over here, which I should have known. I should have known. What am I thinking? Please, I'm sorry, Pete. Thank you for being so understanding, and also you, Hannah, if you're still here. Yeah, we're just talking about the brain. We're talking about memory and how to form memories, what that looks like biologically, how to mess that process up, how trauma messes that process up, and then we were BSing about whatnot. So feel free to ask questions. I'll answer whatever I can. Also, something I would like to ask you all, especially people on YouTube right now, because I am trying to monetize. Again, in case anybody missed it, it helps me if I can monetize, because then I can make my videos a little bit better. Hopefully I can kind of put some of that money towards hiring an editor, somebody who can like put in graphics and stuff. I know a lot of people, especially on YouTube, were talking about how my information is really fun. It's fun to learn. It's really good, but it's kind of dense, and it would be a lot easier to learn with visual aids. And I do try to like add a few visual aids what I can, like in the moment, but it's really difficult for me because I don't have a lot of time and I don't have a lot of tools to do that on my own. But if I could like hire somebody to do that, that would be great. All I need is more views. That's literally it. I'm almost ready to monetize on TikTok. I'm like right there. And on YouTube, I'm pretty far away, but I'm getting there, right? So I'll just keep making content. I'm going to try to make my content better each day. And I'm going to listen to everybody. I am listening to you. I remember a lot of people saying I was talking too fast, not to speed up my videos. I won't do that anymore. I'll make multi-part series if I need to, if the topic's too complicated and I can't fit it in a single short. What else? Yeah, I'll add graphics wherever I can. And my graphics will get better. I am looking into 3D medical tools that allow you to like, but again, the problem is really that I don't have enough time to do it on my own. If I could hire an editor, that'd be great. But that's one way everybody could help me out if you could. Yeah. Love you too, Jim. DaVinci AI. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I have this thing about AI where I don't like it. I understand that it is a part of the world now. It kind of always has been, although I think most people aren't really aware of that. But like new generative AI is very bad for the planet. So I'm trying to avoid using that wherever possible, although I do understand that it is a really big aspect of our society now and that a lot of people use it. If I can avoid it, I will try. Another reason why I avoid it is because a lot of that stuff is not very accurate. There was a professor I had seen a video about where people were just like so upset with this professor because she published her own textbook. And I will read your comment in just 1 second, Hannah. She published a textbook, required her students to purchase it. Super unethical, by the way. And then when they did buy it, they looked at it and it was completely wrong. It had a bunch of medical terms, but they were in the wrong spots in the body. All sorts of things were switched up. Some things were misspelled or even only half printed. And it was because they found out she was using AI to just generate this book for her. And then on top of that, generative AI does kill the planet. Like, rapidly consumes water. It's not good. Editing is also exhausting. I will take the time to edit videos. It's just I have to get videos out though. Works in education publishing. This wasn't uncommon even before AI. Oh no. Thanks, Danny. Yeah, that's how it goes. Okay, hold on. Hannah and Pete, I see your comments. 1 second. Hannah says, currently going through PTSD, so I have so many intrusive thoughts. It makes sense why I'm getting so tired because my brain keeps switching between work and trauma. Yeah, that sounds exhausting. And you're not alone. A lot of people, have this kind of thing going on. But yeah, exactly, right? Because work is an entire realm that exists within your head. And people may not really even realize this. You might not be thinking about it this way, but in actuality, your boss exists inside of your head. The way your boss looks, smells, sounds, all that exists in your head. And the way your coworkers, each one of them individually exists inside of your head. And your office exists inside of your head, right? You have hippocampal 3D modeling, right? Your place cells and your hippocampus are aware and keeping track of where you're at in any given 3-dimensional space, right? And you have all these things going off inside your mind. We also know through lots of research that when you imagine another place, your brain temporarily gets transported there in itself as it's trying to recognize and reinterpret that place. But it also reinterprets those people and animals and aspects, right? And so literally, Hannah, you're not just switching back and forth between the thoughts of work and the thoughts of the whatever's triggering your PTSD. And I'm very sorry to hear that you're going through this, but you're also switching between worlds, right? And you know which world is not there and which world you are in, right? But that doesn't matter. Your brain is still taking the energy to be in that separate world, right? And that's a ton of work. I'm really sorry to hear that you're going through that. I want to talk more on that, but if you could even send me like a message. I don't. Does YouTube have like a personal messaging?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Hannah, if you can find a way to message me on YouTube, please do. If you, I would like to talk to you more about this.
If you want a jump platform, also can find you on Instagram.
You also can find me either on Instagram or TikTok. I'm live over on TikTok as well. And you can message me there if you like. Hannah Fortaleza. Okay, and I'll look for you in my comments too. I would like to talk to you more about that. For now, I would like to ask you, Hannah, is there anything that you've found that helps you at all with these symptoms, with this? Sorry, I'm just writing your name down. Okay, so I remember to come back and look for you. And Hannah, Harmony Nerd over here on TikTok says hugs to you. She says she's really sorry that you're suffering, and PTSD is no joke. So just know that the whole community is here for you, not just on YouTube, but in TikTok as well. And Pete says AI has no business with any person trying to use their brains. A neuroscience reference, sure. I still hate AI. Yeah, I totally get it, Pete. That's what it is, right? Like, and I did a video on this not too long ago, but like using AI to do your thinking for you can be really damaging. Sure, people can use it to supplement their knowledge. If you can use it that way, that's great. That's great, as long as you can find a way to consolidate that information, I guess. But also because it's so quickly generative, it's also quick for you to throw it out, right? Hannah says thank you, by the way, to both Harmony Nerd and probably to the rest of the community as well. Anybody who's new to this community knows we're a tight-knit community, and we're really here for each other. You know, life's hard. We all know it. We're all going through it, and we're here to support each other. And we're here to learn about ourselves, learn about each other, grow. That's it. Learn and grow, right? 1, 2. Yeah. I'm going to try to avoid AI wherever I can. And if I get the chance to hire somebody, that would be great. But I'm also going to kind of look for somebody who's not using AI. Yeah. I can do some stuff in the meantime, and I might experiment with that. For instance, I am an artist. I draw a lot. I could draw some of the mechanisms that I'm talking about and kind of take you through it as I draw it. That might be an interesting concept. It does take a lot of work, though, and a lot of planning. Not that my videos don't already take work and planning, but like it takes more work and planning on top of what my videos already take. And my spoons are kind of limited in what I'm able to do right now. Another thing is if I am able to monetize across platforms, like again, you know, once you monetize, that's great. But it's like, you know, if you make a lot of money doing that, you're really lucky, right? Like most people don't like immediately make a ton of money. But maybe someday I could work this into a career where I'm making enough money to be like self-supporting, and then I would have more time to put myself into the work of my videos, as opposed to like it's just me talking at you, right, about a concept. This is a cool concept. I'll throw a little sticker in here or there, or maybe an image here or there. Maybe I can actually like show off my artistry skills or use 3D modeling software such as like what's the one I used to use all the time? Unreal Engine, things like that. Or maybe I can find other stuff that I can use to kind of like build stuff from scratch. Or maybe not even from scratch. I can also use BioRender. BioRender is a really good one that people use for publications. It's very good for showing like neural, it's very good for like research diagrams and stuff, although it's a little cartoony, but not bad. I mean, great for something like this. Also, like people use it. I've used it. I've published peer-reviewed papers with it, you know. Yeah. So maybe I can work on that. They just take longer. It's harder to get videos out that way. But if people generally feel like it makes that much of a difference, then it's worth taking the time to do, you know. The other thing is I do want to ask you all if you're aware of a topic I haven't covered or a topic that I have covered that you feel like I haven't covered it in depth enough, or just anything that you're really interested in about cognition, about perception, about sensation, or anything related to the brain, the mind, whatever. Let me know what you're interested in hearing about because I'll write these things down. We can make videos about this. How does the brain form auditory memory and store it? And the ear can mess up the auditory memory. Thanks for the question. Like shortly, auditory memory is stored like most forms of memory. The real interesting thing about auditory memory is the sense organ that picks it up because it's not like the other senses. Although I guess arguably all the senses are very different in their sensory organs. Um, so what's cool about the auditory sense, you have two mechanisms within the inner ear. You have the semicircular canals, which are for your balance, your sense of balance, and then you have the inner ear mechanisms. I'll just refer to the cochlea, but you have like the hammer, anvil, and stirrup, which are inside of the eardrum. They kind of make up your like, and the tympanic membrane is your eardrum, but they make up this thing that kind of like makes a pressure wave, right? So when you hear a sound, that sound arrives at your ear as a pressure wave, and that hits your tympanic membrane, your eardrum, and the eardrum kicks the hammer, anvil, and stirrup to kind of like a little lid to the cochlea. The cochlea is like a coiled up little seashell looking deal. But basically, this little flap starts kicking. And as it does that, it's sending pressure into the cochlea, waves of pressure. And depending on the frequency of that kicking, can send it further down the cochlea. So the way you experience a sound wave is that the higher the frequency, the farther down that track it can go. So I say down the track because a lot of textbooks will spread the cochlea out really long and you how far it'll go down the cochlea, but the cochlea is coiled up, right, to get it to fit. It's very tiny to fit inside such a small space. And yeah, you can watch that little wave of sound until it, you know, terminates at some point. And wherever it's terminating, that's how your brain interprets, oh, it must be this frequency, right? Which is a very interesting process. Again, I could make an excellent video about this if I had the right diagrams and stuff. I probably could find something, but I don't know. It's difficult in terms of like what's legal for me to use or not, unless I make it myself. Maybe I can make a video about how this works for you. A video on how all the senses interact with or are processed by the brain would be cool. Yeah, I would love to do that. Actually, it would be great to dedicate a video or two to each sense because each sense alone has a magnificent underworking behind how it works. The olfactory system, the auditory system, and your sensory and motor systems could probably all be done in one video each, but your visual system needs at least two, maybe three, because the visual system is so complicated and amazing. So for the people with ADP, what part of the brain is not working properly? What is that? Auditory?
I think they rephrased it a little bit in the next comment.
Oh, auditory processing disorder. What part of the brain is not working properly? Fluffy, thanks for the question. I don't It depends is the answer. It depends is usually the answer, right? Um, it depends because there could be damage to the ear, or it could be that the ear was formed differently than what's typical, right? It could be a genetic thing, right? That can be, right? Or it could be damage done over time. Maybe they listen to a lot of loud noise and stuff. They might end up with things like tinnitus and things like that. That can become distracting. Also, perhaps there's something else to it, right? If their cortex, the outer part of the brain, right? And now we're talking about the temporal lobes, which are on the sides there. Those are where your primary auditory cortices are. And if they are not wired properly, it's possible that you're receiving a lot of sensory info, but don't have a lot of cortical tissue being dedicated to it. And so it's non-specific. It might just be wired a little funny. And that can lead to slower processing. There can be things like blood pressure issues, right? People with higher blood pressure can have issues with their hearing, including how sounds are interpreted. It could literally be any number of things. It could be a lot of things. Yeah. Also, there are intellectual disabilities, and there are other like disorders that can cause auditory processing disorders. Yeah. Yeah, thanks everybody for the questions. I really appreciate y'all. If you have any ideas for videos you want to see, please let me know. It seems like a sensory series would be pretty cool. Maybe people want to know more about the senses individually. Also, like there are senses, like I mentioned earlier, you have your sense of pain, which we don't typically think of as a sense. It is, it's nociception. But it's not included in the five senses, right? That'd be a pretty important one to talk about for sure. That's actually a really interesting one too. Every sense is so interesting on its own because they're all unique. None of them work like the other ones. It's really cool. I will do a sensory series for sure. How can a person look at how their cortex is wired? Well, there's different ways. One way is through it. Okay, that's a hard question to answer. How it's wired specifically is tough to look at. You can use a technique called diffuser tensor imaging, which watches very slowly how water is diffused across the brain, and this will tell you where your axonal tracks are, right? And so you can see which area of the brain is talking to which other area of the brain. It's possible to do that. Other than that, there are other techniques you can use to see which parts of the brain are active during certain periods. Yeah. What's weird?
What you just described.
The tensor imaging?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Oh, you should look it up if you've never seen tensor imaging. Sense of place. Oh, is it Aljosa? I've seen you in my comments. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Sense of place. So are you talking about like your own sense of where you're at in three-dimensional space? In that case, you're talking about place cells. Place cells are also very interesting, especially looking at like barrel cells in rodents. They're how we know about these things in the hippocampi. They're called barrel cells because they're shaped like barrels. They're really cool. Okay, sense of place. If that's not what you're talking about, please correct me. They are so cool, though. One of the really interesting aspects of them, we also have them in our brain, that's fantastic, is that they create a hexagram grid. So, like, you know what a hexagon looks like? It's like a six-sided polygon. If you can imagine a grid, right, of these,
like a beehive.
It looks like a beehive, right? And so when you're walking around, these place cells are firing in the shape of a beehive to map your current environment. And it changes for every environment you go into. But when you go back to a previous environment, it retains the same map. It's very interesting. I would love to do a video about that. Thank you for the comment. I appreciate it. Is there a medical test?
I think Fluffy's asking about the tensor test you were talking about. How do you spell that?
Oh, it's tensor imaging. I don't have. I think my tablet is dead, or I would. It's diffuser. Let me see if I can.
I can try to look it up. What do you need?
It's diffuser tensor imaging. So it's diffuse, right? DIFFUS. OR.
And then tensor.
Diffuser tensor TENSOR. Imaging.
Diffusion tensor imaging.
Yeah, diffusion tensor imaging.
And
Sure.
fiber tractography?
Yeah.
What's the type of MRI?
Harm's looking it up right now. It's a type of MRI where you're specifically watching water flow through your brain. The reason why is because, like, in a sense, water is carrying the soup of molecules through your neurons, and so you can see which direction it's flowing. And this allows you to be able to, there it is, diffusion tensor imaging and fiber tractography. Anyway, these images are really beautiful. They use like rainbows to coordinate so that you don't get confused about which track is going where. They come up with these really psychedelic images. They're wild. The only problem is you can't see the cell bodies.
Hold that up.
Yeah, okay. Harm's got a picture for us. I'll hold it up to this camera so you can see it, and I'll hold it up to the YouTube camera in just a second. This is what this looks like. So again, you can't really see the cortical area. What it's showing you is this is your white matter. This is where your axons are. Your cortical matter is your gray matter. Hopefully there we go. Very cool. Very cool way to kind of see how the brain is, different parts of the brain are communicating to other parts of the brain. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up for us. I'll make sure my tablet's charged next time so I can talk more about this kind of stuff. Maybe I can draw some of these things out too.
Really cool. It almost reminds me of the
Thanks, Fluffy.
neuron
thank you.
back there.
But Fluffy says thanks, by the way.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah, my neuron. I'll show off my neuron real quick. My friend Marika Reimer beaded this for me.
She's an excellent artist and a brilliant scientist.
She's a brilliant scientist and an excellent artist. Here's this for YouTube really quick. Notice she used an eyeball for the nucleus of the soma. The soma is the cell body. Here it is for TikTok. It's one of my favorite things. So this is a neuron that she beaded. She is a world famous artist, by the way. She actually is a world famous miniature painter. She painted minis and sold them to all sorts of rich people, famous people, like George R.R. Martin, the writer, the author of Game of Thrones. He's bought work from her. But she's a brilliant scientist. She just moved to Spain, actually. I wonder what she's doing there. I got to check in with her. She's one of my best friends. I worked with her at Yale. Yeah, it is cute. Super cute. Thank you, Pete. I think it is beautiful for sure. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things. She's one of my best friends. I miss her a lot. She moved last month, I think. Yeah. Very recently. Spain is cool. Yeah, I hope to see it soon, one day. I don't know. It'd be great. I've never really been outside of North America. Basically just Canada and Mexico. That's it. My family was indigenous to Mexico, so it's just like all the way down the line. Great thing about going to school in USA, you get international network if you have energy for networking. Yeah, that's true. I miss networking a lot. I actually love meeting people. I love talking with people. And I do find for myself personally, it's much more difficult for me to do that online. But I am trying. I do my best. I have met a lot of really cool people, especially through my social medias too. We've met like Kate Jude is on here as one of the people who's part of our community. She hasn't joined this live yet, but if any of you get the chance to meet Kate Jude, she's super cool. There's who else?
A bunch of people have like written books about brain stuff have been in your lives.
Yeah, there's people who've like written books about the brain in my lives. Our community is super cool. Like, and we accept everybody. The only two things that you need to have to be here are that you are a kind person and that you want to learn about the brain. That's it. If you meet those two criteria, you're welcome here. It doesn't matter what level of education you have. It doesn't matter what language you speak or whatever. There's also Michio, I don't think has shown up this live. He's pretty cool. He's from the Netherlands. Who else? We got Joe from Cleveland. He hasn't shown up in a while, but we love him. We love Katie, all the Katies. Yeah, we've got a cool community, and I want to keep it growing. It's been wild. It's been a lot of fun, and you're welcome here. As long as you want to learn about the brain. Flawless criteria. I'm here for those reasons and to keep my brain running after severe brain damage. Oh no, Pete, I'm sorry to hear about that. I too share in severe brain damage. I have my TBIs that I've received, mainly the really bad one in when I was 7 in that car accident. I don't know if you were here, Pete, for that story, but I'm usually pretty open about it. I'm sorry to hear that. It helps me to feel like I understand myself better for sure. I don't know if I sorry, Fluffy, can you rephrase that?
Oh, Fluffy's saying they don't know if they're kind. Sometimes their filter goes offline after their brain things.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, sure. Well, as long as you're kind most of the time, I guess. Just don't be mean to anybody here, unless they're jerks, and then it's okay. You have my permission. If they're like real jerks, just tell them to leave. Don't be like mean. Just tell them to leave. We don't need people like that here. You weren't here, but you read that and understand more of my struggle. Respect everything I've done and doing now. Thanks, Pete. That's such a compliment. Like, that's a huge compliment. Thank you for saying that. Quickly, I was in a car accident when I was 7, and I hit my head and like hurt my back. I also twisted my left arm and leg all the way around. Like I got hit by a semi that was going, 80 miles an hour. It hit my car and not my car, my parents' car. And I flew out of the vehicle, landed in the street, and I possibly got hit by another car. I don't know. But I do know that I felt like I was in the hospital for about a day, but it was actually like 3 or 4 weeks. And I got out of the hospital in a wheelchair. Sorry if this is too graphic. I'm not trying to be graphic, but I couldn't form new episodic memory for like a really long time. I had such a hard time with it. Everywhere I went, it was constantly like, who is that? Why are we here? What are we doing? And, it was like that for a couple of years. And then my mom said it was like really weird. One day I just sort of woke up and stopped being that way. But I worked with like teams of people, neurologists and all sorts of people, doing like puzzles and assessments and stuff. And eventually my brain just like locked in and I figured out who I was, where I was at and stuff. I still have permanent retrograde amnesia. If people don't know, retrograde means backward and anterograde means forward. So I had retrograde and anterograde amnesia, right? My anterograde amnesia stopped. I still can't remember the years that this was happening, but I can remember stuff going forward now. But my retrograde amnesia is permanent. I really can't remember my life before that accident. I barely remember anything. I have like maybe 2 or 3 snapshots, and I can't even remember. I don't have anything to scaffold them to. I don't remember anything about them. I just like, oh, I kind of remember being in this room with my mom for some reason. That's it. Yeah, that's basically it. I had a pretty bad TBI, and luckily it happened when I was very little, and little children are very resilient. I am very lucky to be alive for sure. Okay. TBI and COVID at the same time. Oh no. Sorry, Fluffy. That sounds awful. Yeah, kids are much more resilient. That is lucky. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's about neuroplasticity. I should probably do that too as a video because, like, I know y'all like hearing about neuroplasticity. That's one of everybody's favorite topics, and there's a lot to say about neuroplasticity. Okay, but maybe I could talk about neuroplasticity and how it changes, plasticity and how it changes as you age. But yeah, because children have such powerful neuroplasticity, they can often adapt to the most profound things. It's like that video I did about the woman who was born without her cerebellum, right? And somehow her brain figured out how to develop a cerebellum within itself without the cerebellum, which, as you can see, the cerebellum is this green chunk, right? It makes up a ton of your brain. It's more so, even though the cerebellum looks small, it's more than half of your neurons are in that little spot. It's very important, right? Sorry. Retrograde amnesia. This is a club I'm sorry we're both in. Anything before 58 is gone for me. I'm sorry to hear about that, Pete. That's really rough. Man, that is wow. That is such a long amount of time of your life to just be gone. It's so interesting too, because it's kind of like with me, I can't remember anything, but I can remember I knew who my mom was, right? And I knew what my name was. I knew how old I was. I knew like facts, but I couldn't remember a single thing about like what I had ever done in my life, which was really weird. And I'm just trying to imagine having an entire lifetime like that. That must be really profoundly difficult. I hope that you've been able to adjust okay. Yeah, please let me know how you're doing, Pete. And also, I do see you in my comments. I recognize you now. You do have a pretty like amazing story. I checked your YouTube out for a little bit. It was pretty wild. And also, anybody else, if you get the chance, Pete. It's Pete hyphen S5G8. But Pete's pretty cool, and his YouTube channel is pretty amazing. Sorry, I'm missing some comments. You wonder how many TBIs you had as a kid. I'm sure many people your age and older get brain hits as kids. Sorry, I'm not sure I know what you mean by that. Oh, you mean like a lot of us by now have, or a lot of us had gotten a TBI when we were younger, for sure. And a lot of people don't even get checked out, right? A lot of people don't even go to the hospital. My twin brother, he hit his head so hard. And again, if you don't know, the brain is about the consistency of room temperature butter.
I hate that fact.
It's a terrible fact. I hate saying it. Harm hates hearing it, and yet I have to say it every time I think to say it because it's true. Your brain is so smooshy. You have to be careful with it. And a lot of people aren't. And a lot of people like hit their head really hard, definitely need an MRI, and they just walk it off and they're like, I guess I'll drink Monster Energy about it and go do it again. Yeah, neuroplasticity is definitely inspiring in a lot of ways. My long-term memory is still not incredible. What do you mean? My long-term memory is great. Don't listen to Harm. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Oh, rewatch movies and games, and it'll be like the first time. That is true. I do have this. Yeah, Pete, for sure. I have those hard facts, but nothing feels familiar. No events. grateful I recognize my family's face. I'm really grateful that you have that ability too. Again, it's like, man, why is it I'm able to hang on to this information? And I can, I can postulate on that for ad infinitum too, probably. Maybe I'll make a video about that actually. Um, yeah. I'm really grateful that you do know your family, Pete. And I'm grateful that you're alive and with us. I'm grateful that you're part of the community too. Worst fact alert. Thanks, Harm. No, it's true though. It's true though. Like my memory's like pretty good, but for some reason with video games and with movies, if I don't watch them for like a couple years, I won't remember anything about them. I just remember that I really like them, and then I go rewatch them, and I'm like, yeah, I remember why I like this. I guess because I don't find it like super relevant to my actual everyday living. It might be why I don't remember it so much. TBI wasn't a thing back in the days unless you pass out and can't function. Yeah, for sure. And they had things like what was it, shell shock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also chronic traumatic encephalopathy. That's another thing that I need to make a video about that I haven't yet. I'm pretty sure I have family members that suffer from this. It's really sad. For those that don't know, sorry, I'm just trying to write it down so I remember. Encephalopathy. So, chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a brain disease that happens when you hit your head too many times, you damage the brain too many times, and instead of repairing itself, it sort of hits a self-destruct button and deteriorates. And you see this a lot in very physical careers. You see this in football. You see this in MMA and other fighting sports like boxing, especially. Yeah, basically that it's just like I said, the brain hits the self-destruct button, and people with chronic traumatic encephalitis or encephalopathy, you'll see their brain shrink. You'll see them become more like agitated. They basically get the symptoms of like dementia, right? They kind of act like they have dementia because they do. Actually, it's like it's a form of dementia. It's a brain disease. Yeah, it's just very sad, and like it definitely like leads to some pretty rough stuff on occasion. Hannah says, I crashed my motorcycle at a young age. I had a concussion and it caused my memory for the past day to vanish. And for about 3 hours afterwards, short term was about 30 seconds long. Scary. That is scary. I'm sorry to hear about you crashing your motorcycle. I have crashed my fair share of motorcycles, which is why I don't ride them anymore. Yeah, that is really scary. I'm glad that you're okay now, though. You're doing okay now. How do you feel? Has that impacted you in the long term, or was that pretty acute? Pete says, I was an RN for 38 years. Here's what the collective thought was about possible brain injuries. 0, meaning most healthcare professionals have no idea what to look for or what it is. I'll share. Okay, yeah, I want to know more. Yeah, no. Brain injuries are tough because like, and especially like in an ER where it's like, oh, the whole thing is just keep you alive. A lot of people don't know that when you have a brain injury, half the time it's just the bleeding that's going to hurt you. And what I mean by that is it's not the loss of blood, it's that blood is pooling, and that pooling puts pressure on your brain. And again, the brain is the consistency of room temperature butter. So putting pressure on it is bad. That kills neurons. A lot of people who have bleeding in the brain, you can drill a hole in their skull and let the blood out, and their symptoms immediately get better. It's way less about blood loss, and it's way more about pressure on the brain. How does it deteriorate themselves? flat waves. So I'm actually not sure that we know the mechanism. I'll look more. I'll do some more research on this. I'm not sure if we know the mechanism for this. But because the symptoms are so similar to dementia, I imagine it probably has a similar mechanism to dementia. We don't exactly know what causes dementia either. It could be different things. We think in Alzheimer's, it's that deal with the tau protein and the amyloid beta plaques that I mentioned earlier. But it could be, it could just be that nervous tissue has died and it's gumming up the works, just like in most forms of dementia. And it could also be that things are just crisscrossed and wired incorrectly. And because communication isn't happening correctly, neurons are dying because they're not able to metabolize correctly. But I'm not sure. OG says, why do words sound muffled sometimes when people are talking to me? I don't know. You could have an auditory processing disorder. You say it sounds muffled when they're talking to you. Have you ever had any problems with like earwax buildup or anything like that? That's just my first question. That's not what I think is happening. But I'm curious if that does happen to you. Hannah says, wonder if it changed me permanently, but I'll never be sure. There are probably more issues from lead exposure from people using avgas in their bikes. Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's real. For real. Yeah. And like, honestly, it probably did change you, right? I feel like anytime you get a concussion, anytime you go through like something kind of traumatic, changes you in a way, maybe not a permanent physical change, but a mental change is still a change. Yeah. For instance, I don't ride bikes anymore. There's a reason I don't ride motorcycles anymore. I had 1 year when I was in grad school where I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. So like I grew up in Montana and a lot of people ride motorcycles and four-wheelers there, right? And no earwax. Okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna get right back to you right after this. So I grew up in Montana where a lot of people rode four-wheelers and motorcycles, and drink a lot because that's the only thing to do there in Billings is just drink and ride motorcycles. That's it, and shoot guns. That's it. So that's what we did. Anyway, I was in grad school in Oregon and 1 year, and like 4 of my friends that I had grown up with suddenly died by like crashing their motorcycles, or in one case a four-wheeler, and it was just bananas. Like it all happened within a month, and I was just like, why why did this happen? And I still can't understand it. Like when I think about it too much, it kind of messes with me. Like everybody all at once did this. It's so strange. Yeah. OG. Sometimes when people are talking to you, it sounds like it's muffled, literally like you're wearing an earmuff. It sounds like you have an auditory processing disorder. I don't know what could be causing it. If you've ever had like a history of severe ear infections or something, there's a chance that it could be due to hair cells dying in the cochlea. If you have a history of listening to really loud music or having a job that's really loud, say you work at in a mechanic shop, or you might work at a car wash where there's like those loud blowers, or you might be in a machine shop or something like that where there's constantly loud noise, maybe at an airport or something, that can cause that to happen over time. And so your brain can kind of muffle the sound. It doesn't muffle the sound, it receives muffled sound. If this has been happening to you all your life, like since you were a little child, it could be a developmental issue. It could be something to do with the way that your auditory nerve was developed. If this is a recent issue and you haven't been to the doctor for it, you should go. But it could have something to do with the way that the auditory cortex is processing information. It's possible that in the cortex, something's happened. If you hit your head, or maybe you got really sick or something, that can do damage to your brain, and might cause muffling. The other thing is, it may just have, if none of that is the case, it might just be nothing. Like, and I mean, it's not nothing, but like, um, it might be that you have, if you may have like an attentional disorder or something like that, or maybe even just like whatever. But like, it might not even be a disorder. You know what I mean? Um, if your attention is grabbed easily visually, you might pay more attention visually than you do auditorily, and that might be like causing noise to muffle in your ears because you're too focused on what you're seeing rather than what you're hearing. Sometimes that can happen. Those are all the things I know about. There are probably more. Everybody's different. I don't know. And it can be a symptom of depersonalization or dissociation. That is very true, Harm. So I'm not sure if you've ever experienced anything like that. Let's see. Okay, looks like we're caught up here. All right, this has been an excellent live. I think I can go for about another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to have to take off. My phone is actually really low on battery, and I do have some work I got to go do. I really appreciate everybody showing up. I appreciate all the questions and the dialogue and people sharing their experiences. Thank you to both Hannah and Pete on YouTube. Thank you, Fluffy family, and also the other people who were here earlier. And thank you, OG, also for sharing your experience. Yeah, thanks, everybody. This is an awesome community, and I'm so glad to walk back into it. And to see like some familiar old faces and to have new faces now is amazing. For those who don't know, if you're here, if you're new here, I grew this community a couple of years ago, back in 2021, and it was amazing, but I had to travel across the country. I started a new job. A lot of things hit me all at once, and I had to step back from social media for a few years. And I'm just now getting back to it, like within the last month. This is my first time back on YouTube, other than just like posting shorts. Yeah, thanks, Pekka. I don't know. I should do this regularly. How often do you think I should go live? I can't go live every day. What would be good days to go live? Today is Saturday. Seems like a lot of people are here, so maybe Saturdays are a good day. YouTube, if anybody's here, please chime in. Yeah, what seems good? Maybe like 2 or 3 times a week? More videos on adapted to new environment as you age. Oh, sure. More adapting to new environments as we age. Got it. I'll look into some topics around that and make some videos. The more times the better. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I want to go live more. I want to go live more. I'm just so tired. But I will go live more. I'm trying to listen to everybody, do all the things. I'll do the best that I can. People who move a lot, change jobs, and how to navigate all according to brain function. Yeah, Fluffy. I think I get what you mean. I'll work on a few videos for you, for everybody. Thank you for the topic suggestion. Need an editor. Yeah, you know what? Please keep enjoying my work. Thank you, Pete, so much, and Hannah. I think Hannah might have taken off. But thank you, everybody, for enjoying my work. The more you interact, the more you send my videos out and save them and share them, the more you watch my videos and comment and respond to me, it helps me a lot because eventually I will be able to monetize. I'm not that far on TikTok. I'm pretty far on YouTube. in terms of views. I need more views, but all my other criteria are met on YouTube. But when I can do that, I do plan to put some of that money back into just like, how do I make my videos better? You know, I would like to get better recording equipment than this little mic. Of course, off screen, you can't see my snowball mic, but it's very old and it has issues. I'm hoping that wasn't a problem for the people on YouTube. I would like to have a legitimate recording setup at some point, something a little nicer than what I have. But because my equipment's like kind of really old, that's okay. But also, importantly, I'd like to be able to provide like infographics, right? So that like I can get more of the tougher concepts across visually. I think it'll be a lot easier for people to understand. All right. Well, yeah, thanks everybody. I think, it's been 2.5 hours. I think this is a pretty good live. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all the suggestions. Thank you for all the suggestions, not just here, but also in the comments. I am reading all of your comments. I can't respond to everybody. I wish I could. There are too many. But I will try to respond to everybody that I can. And I thank you all deeply from the bottom of my heart for making this such a cool community. You give my life meaning. You give it value. And I really greatly appreciate you all for that. That being said, I'm going to end it now. Pekka, the next time I go live, I'm not sure when.
Soon.
It'll be soon. Maybe in the next couple days. Maybe I'll try to aim for Monday or Tuesday. We'll try to go live again Monday or Tuesday, I think. But for now, thank you everybody. I greatly appreciate you all. And I'll see you next time.